What's up, G family? I am so glad you can join me. You are the MVP. I hope this presentation finds you well. We're going to get into another in-depth discussion theory about this looming threat in Godzilla Minus Zero, so stick around. A lot of us have been talking about this particular kaiju while
You're thinking,
so there's that. I actually really dig this kaiju. As it turns out, a lot of people do. And I don't think over time he's gotten enough mentions or screen time or enough homage paid. Because I think he's pretty dreadfully interesting, But we're going to get into that and a little bit more today on Kaiju Chronicles later. So just stick around right after these messages.
Go through my tread as I'm coming from afar. It's best to kill my path, it don't matter who you are. I like my energy raw, but I'm known to eat a star. Ain't nothing no fade, if you ready we can spar. Forget the old scores, we gon' set some new bars. They refer to me as legend, others might just call me God. Let me show you who I am, you know how it all bizarre. Yeah, I'm the meanest boss that you seen thus far. I caught your bad babs, yeah, I seen you in a few. They said you as a kid, you don't see just what they do. Should I execute my stomp or these claws on my tail? I could slice you with my back or just smash you down the hill. If you ask me to be mentored, then your lesson gon' be hard. Before I show you mercy, you will die before your God. I aim to rule the seas and these lands all abroad, because I'm the meanest boss that you've seen thus far.
So we've discussed Ghidorah, how he's possibly in this next movie, all the clues leading up to Ghidorah, how the Zero in Godzilla Minus Zero is actually referring to Ghidorah, and so we talked about Ghidorah, but we're going to leave Ghidorah over there for now. Now in the other corner over there, a lot of people are talking about Ghidorah. Yes. And I could not agree more that he should be Godzilla's next foe. Hedorah or Hedorah, depending on how you like to pronounce it, actually fought Godzilla after Ghidorah in 1971. But Toho could switch it around. They already have pretty much done that a little bit in the last movie, so it doesn't have to be the exact same remake. And we could get a shot. What I'm referring to as far as them switching it up a little bit in the last movie is them just basically having Godzilla show up a little bit earlier, right after the war, instead of them waiting a little bit like they did in the original movie where Godzilla, he did show up a little bit later, and then after they had done some, some reconstruction, getting the country back together, and Godzilla came back and tore it back up. But he shows up earlier in this movie, I guess, to add a little bit more depth to the destruction and the loss and the despair. Also, considering the first movie and all the things that took place, as far as Godzilla just pretty much demolishing everything he turned around and stared at too long, I think a Hedorah movie would be the perfect sequel, as well as address a few topics. And I'll explain. First, to think about all this pretty much baby Godzilla's, recently been through, being nuclear radiated to begin with, all the things he's put Japan through, and then having to learn to adapt to this new rare form, and all these untapped abilities, and still having to wait to recharge. I think stumbling upon a Hedorah would be a diabolical nightmare. I say diabolical when I refer to Godzilla running into Hedorah, but it would be nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to what it'd be if he ran into Ghidorah. Now, in this baby rare form, let's get real. I think a Hedorah, who is a threat but not that hard to beat, is more of a baby Godzilla speed. It would make for a very good movie to where there would be a struggle and Godzilla would pretty much figure out who he is and what he can do and finally defeat this monster, than us, I think, rushing to a Ghidorah movie where you got this tri-headed dragon, flying over and you would drop you all over the place and God knows what else. The irony, I think, that would be the smacker is that Godzilla would stare right into the eyes of a monster he created. You feel me? All of his destruction, all of the, the waste and the pollution and the oil and the sludge and what do you think this monster is made of? He is the smog monster. Ironic in the fact that, of course, as you would expect, Godzilla showing up means destruction. It means death. It means rampage and ravishing and, the consuming of all the raw power and the leaking of the radiation and, just the end of existence for humans. Godzilla was that threat to us. And to imagine that another monster made from his actual actions, that has actually also used his DNA to grow just as big as him, that now poses to be the end to his existence, that's here to destroy him, to be his destruction. I refer to Godzilla as being an intrinsic being, having intrinsic purposes, on man, for the destruction of the earth, as I mentioned, if you remember, to teach us a lesson. And I think that this monster would now be the lesson for Godzilla. He didn't actually create it completely, but his destruction added to the monster's growth, as well as the cells from Godzilla's body crumbling into the ocean where Hedorah seemed to have been born, could have contributed to this monster's growth and power and the big threat. As I mentioned, Hedorah's other name is the Smog Monster, which pretty much itself addresses exactly what he is or what he survives on. Pollution, gaseous emissions, trash, smog, anything pollutive. And of course we had all the wreckage from Godzilla's war, all the oil, all the things leaking into the ocean after the big fight, as well as I mentioned, Godzilla's body part. What also makes it interesting is that Hedorah is also an alien life form, and he's been on the earth for a pretty long time. He's actually been in a tadpole, which is sort of a dormant state for his species, but he didn't have the adequate power or should I say substance to grow until the big war, until the big fight with Godzilla. And like I said, Godzilla's cells or whatever, and now he's grown, he's ripened, and he's fattened up, and he's, he comes out of the ocean to confront Godzilla, as he does in Godzilla vs Hedorah. If you haven't seen that movie, you should check it out. It's a really great movie, and once you see it, you really hope that it's a remake like I'm hoping it would be. So the Abomination has created an abomination that has used his G cells and DNA to grow just as big as him and now threaten his existence and the rest of the world. Tell me that would be a good movie. And hey guys, I was kind of thinking, it's like, I feel like Toho could use Godzilla and Hedorah to pretty much shed more light on the global warming environmental crisis, right? I mean, what better to bring more awareness to something affecting our earth, and to send that great message using kaiju as exciting as Godzilla and Hedorah, to push the envelope. Hey, I was even thinking that we probably could even recruit Miss Greta Thunberg, the environmentalists to step in with Toho and make an appearance in the movie, maybe to facilitate, some type of meeting and, get everybody together and the monsters and all. I'm just kidding. We've been dealing with global warming for a pretty long time, but I think in the days that we're seeing now, we're seeing a more aggressive form of it. The melting sea ice, the really bad storms, the floods, like everything, you name it. Let's put these monsters to work. When Godzilla fought Hedorah, it's like he was fighting a big, bad, tall, pissed off can of sludge, man. And he was really just a freakish alien entity taking on multiple forms at will, flying over Godzilla. He even knocked Godzilla into a ditch and took a big old dump on him. I mean, it was a nasty, long, sludge, droopy one too. You gotta check it out. This movie is something else. You're gonna be cracking up when you see that part. It's like one of my favorite parts of the movie. Man, Hedorah was jacking Godzilla up, and then Godzilla started giving it to him. Like, he starts stomping them down into the ground and just tearing them limb from limb. Another thing I like about this movie is that it shows, the movie's serious, it's not really goofy. It's pretty serious because it's kind of highlighting a huge threat as far as the monster is concerned, as well as what he brings with, the waste and how it pollutes the world. But it was serious to the fact that when Godzilla stumbled upon him, he was perplexed. You could tell he was like really confused about what this thing was. And, he kind of inched towards it. He took his time, kind of poking and jabbing at it. He even got his ass handed to him a little bit first couple of rounds until he figured it out. I love that in those movies, Godzilla actually figured out how to defeat it. I don't want to see other monsters helping Godzilla. I want him to do it himself. I want him to show us that he's the king of the monsters and figure it out himself. So what do you guys think? You think Godzilla should fight Ghidorah? Or you think he should have a time slinging around this overgrown animated garbage can? I would really love to see it. I think Ghidorah would be a smash hit. I could also get down with a new monster. Back in the day, growing up, I used to love it when Toho would rock us with a brand new monster. Every now and then. It was pretty exciting. So I could pretty much dig that. Another thing that crossed my mind is that we might not get a new monster. I mean, you ever thought about the fact that the new threat could actually be a more powerful, regenerated, the spiky Godzilla. We see two Godzillas in the preview, right? We see one walking past Statue of Liberty. He's pretty huge. Who's to say they probably didn't kill him, and then he comes back even more ferocious. So the spikier version. How would we feel about that? I mean, I'll still be okay as long as the movie is great. I think you're going to do a good job, Mr. Takashi Yamazaki. But, there's a possibility we might not get a new monster and that the more powerful regenerated Godzilla could be the new threat. Alright, G fans, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I ain't going to hold you too long. I've been trying not to make these videos too excessive. I would like to say I'm really grateful that you tuned in to have this discussion with me. I think these are some pretty good topics. I would really also like to send a heartfelt from the bottom of my heart thank you to my new subscribers. I'm a new content creator. I'm just doing something I love. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I've been for a long time, since I was 5 years old. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm here to make friends. Let's share what's going on in the Godzilla world. We have a lot of great movies to look forward to. Let's just have fun. So, to thine own self be true. Take care of yourself and each other. I'm out.